Hi everyone, my name is Lindsay, and today I am here to talk to you about women's health. Our topic today is birth control. I'm going to be talking about a bunch of different types of birth control while also telling you what I use and the reasons why I use it. I just want to start off this video by saying I am not coming on here and saying that one way is better than the other or that you're wrong if you use this way. That is not what this video is about. I just wanted to make a video where you could just know your options and know what works for you and what might not work for you, and even just give you a little bit of a story about what worked for me and what didn't. So that is the only purpose for this video. I just wanted to share some of my experience. So the first thing that I wanted to say is if you are a woman who wants to know more about your body and more about how it works and more about your cycle, I recommend this book called Knowing Your Fertility. Usually I would have it here with me right now, but I actually don't. I'll put a picture of it somewhere on the screen so that you can see what it looks like. But this is a very helpful tool that I and a lot of other women have used to just do research on how their body works. I haven't read it cover to cover, but I have gone in and found what pertained to me. And a lot of this information that I'm going to be giving you is actually from that book. So if you want to look more into it and do more research, I highly recommend this book. I've definitely learned so much about my body and how it works by just reading this book and understanding more about that. So one thing that the book talks about is knowing your cycle. Now, your cycle, a lot of women think that your cycle is just the length of your period, and actually your cycle is the entire month. Usually on average, most women's cycles last from anywhere around 28 days to 30 days. My cycle on average, it's not always the same, but on average my cycle lasts for about 27 days. So I know that because I have paid attention to my body. I've paid attention to different things that tell you about your cycle. Ovulation is just the time of the month that you are most fertile. So there are different phases of your cycle. There are actually 4 phases. The first phase is your menstruation phase, which is your period. So your cycle starts the first day that you start your period, and the last cycle ends the day before you start your period. So that is how long a cycle lasts. So the menstruation period is your period, however long that lasts, whether that's 3 days or 7 days or whatever it looks like for you. Every woman is different. And then the second phase is called your follicular phase. Sorry, I keep looking over here. My notes are right here, so it's just easier to have it all laid out. But this is actually, it overlaps with the first phase. So your follicular phase starts when you start your period and ends when you ovulate. So from beginning of your period to the first day of your ovulation, that is about the window of your follicular phase. And then your third phase is your ovulation phase, which technically is only 1 day of the month, but you can actually get pregnant for a few days after and a few days before. So it's always just safer to either abstain in that whole week of ovulation or to use another barrier method. But so your ovulation phase is obviously when you are most fertile. It's when an egg is actually produced and released from your ovary. This happens mid-cycle for most women. Again, it looks very different for every woman. So it's always nice to know when you are ovulating, just so you can keep track of all of that. So the fourth phase is the luteal phase, and this is when there is a release of progesterone and helps fertilize the egg if you're trying to get pregnant. So after your ovulation, when there's a release of an egg, this is the next phase that helps fertilize and really seal everything so that a baby does grow, if that's what you want. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is forms of birth control. And actually there are a lot of forms of birth control. I didn't even realize how many there were until I started doing my research. And really you have a lot of options to choose from. So the first form, and probably the most common form of birth control, is the pill. And the pill is about 91% effective. And that changes frequently, so it's hard to go by that statistic. I think it's only 91% effective because you can forget to take it, or you can take it at a different time, and it's not as effective if you don't take it the same time every single day. So that's probably why it's not that effective, or it's not as effective as other forms of birth control. I have actually been on the pill previously. I was on it for about a year, and I just was not a fan of the birth control pill. I found it to be a lot to keep up with. Like I said, you have to take it every single day at the same time, and you always have to have it on you, and that may be super easy for some people, but for me it was just kind of inconvenient. But also, my hormones were crazy when I was on the pill. I was very emotional all the time. I just didn't feel very good. I did gain a little bit of weight, and I actually had a low dose of hormones, because you can get a low dose prescription, and mine was low, and I still had issues with that. So that's one thing. I also don't really like all the chemicals that are in birth control pills. It just makes it a little more difficult, for me at least. I try to live a natural lifestyle, and I didn't really like or understand the chemicals that I was putting in my body, so that was another thing that I just didn't like about birth control. But that's my personal experience. If this is something that works for you, then absolutely go for it. You need to find what's safe and comfortable for your body. Now the second form of birth control is the shot, and this is the Depo Sub-Q or Provera shot, and this lasts for 3 months and is 94% effective. So after 3 months you'd have to go back to the doctor. I think you go to the doctor to get the shot, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, sorry. Definitely do more research on these if you're actually looking into doing this. I think the shot does have to be administered by a doctor. And then the third one is the vaginal ring, and this is like the Nuva ring, and this is something that you have to replace every single month, and it's 91% effective. So I haven't heard a lot about the Nuva ring. I don't know anyone who has used a Nuva ring, but I have heard of like women having complications with it. But again, do your research, and if that's something that works for you, then go for it. The fourth form of birth control is the patch, and this is like the Xulane patch, and you have to replace it every week. And that one's also 91% effective, probably because you can forget to replace it, and all of these, if you forget to replace it or forget to take it, then it lowers the percentage of effectiveness. And then the fifth form is the IUD. This is the Skyla or Mirena. And this is something that's implanted and can last for a while. I think it can last, you can have it in up to 5 years, if I'm not mistaken, which is a super long time to have something in your body that is not part of your body. But this is actually 99% effective. So I would say that's pretty high. I actually know someone who uses a copper IUD, and she hasn't had any pregnancy scares, and she really likes it. But I've also heard of complications, it getting stuck, it can cause different things. I've also heard that the longer you keep it in, the harder it is to get pregnant. Now, these are just things that I've heard. I'm not sure if they're like scientifically proven or anything, so just do your research and find what works best. I know I've said that a bunch, but I think it's super important for you to know what's healthy and good for your body personally. And the last form of birth control is the natural family planning. So I actually did a lot of research on natural family planning, and the more I read about it, the more I was sure that there was no way that that could be effective. But I kept doing my research and I now use it, and that's what I've used for the last almost year now. And it has worked really well for me, and I've actually really enjoyed getting to know my body and knowing when my period is going to happen, when I'm going to be ovulating, and just really understanding my body. So if you don't know, natural family planning is keeping track of your cycles using only what your body does. So you can check your cervical fluid, and you can also take your basal body temperature. And what that is it is your temperature when your body is at rest. So it's the lowest body temperature attained during rest. So how you track your cycles is you take your temperature every morning, and basically you record what your temperature is, and you can see slight fluctuations in your temperatures. And when there's an increase in your temperature, that is when you are ovulating. So that sounds really complicated, and believe me, I was very overwhelmed when I saw that, because what you do is you chart your cycles. So you like record on an actual chart what your temperature is, and then you draw a line so that you can see the fluctuation. And that is basically what natural family planning is. There's ways to be more accurate with it, but I did not want to have to do that. I didn't want to have to remember what my temperature was and then write it down and then chart myself. To me, that just sounds like very overwhelming. I'm sure I could do it if I took the time to do it, but I also feel like I would just be a little nervous. Like, is this, something that I'm actually going to be able to be on top of, or am I going to have an unexpected pregnancy? Obviously, that wouldn't be the end of the world, because I am married and my husband and I are very open to having children whenever God wants us to have children, but we just wanted to be able to keep track of when I am most fertile and when I'm not. And that's just something that's super important to me. So I'm going to tell you guys about the basal body thermometer that I use. It's not just like your regular thermometer that you would buy at Walmart. You can find a basal body thermometer for like $10. This one's a little more advanced and a lot more expensive, but worth it in my opinion. It is called the DAYSY. So this is a basal body thermometer, and basically what it does, every day when you take your temperature, you press this little button and it tells you whether you are basically good to go, or if you should abstain or use another barrier method. So green light means you're okay, or it means that you're good to go, and it will not give you a green light unless it 100% knows that you are completely good to go. There's also a yellow light, which means that it's just like fluctuating. Maybe your temperatures have been a little strange, or you're close to your ovulation date, but not like super close. So sometimes it'll just be a little confused. Usually it's when you first start using it, you get a lot of yellow days because it doesn't really know your cycle yet. And then there's a red day, which means that you are very close to your ovulation or you're after your ovulation. So it tries to give you a good window before and after, just to make sure that you have no chance of getting pregnant. So it wants to make sure that it gets it right. Now the purple light, TMI, but it's when you're on your period, and I'm on my period right now, so that's why the purple light shows up. So if you're on your period, after you take your temperature, you hold the button down and you basically tell it that you're on your period. So it's really helpful. It keeps all of that in mind, and you can keep it all on an app, which is really cool. So the DAYSY has, the people who invented the DAYSY have actually monitored and recorded over 30 years worth of women's cycles, and really got down to the nitty-gritty science behind all of the technology that goes into this. And it's just really amazing how it can hold all of it in this is basically a little computer, which is really cool. So what I love about this, as opposed to your regular basal body thermometer, is in the morning when you take your temperature with those thermometers, you have to either remember your temperature, which would be really difficult if you're like, say you wake up really early and you don't remember, like, early in the morning, it's hard to remember that. But also, like, if you didn't want to just remember it, you'd have to write it down. So you'd have to like actually wake yourself up, write it down. And like when my alarm goes off in the morning, sometimes I don't get up right away. I just take my temperature and go back to sleep. Because some mornings I wake up earlier, some mornings I don't. So I try to have a time where I can either like just wake up and take it and then go back to sleep, or I take it and then actually get up for my day. So it's just easier to have it set at the same time every morning to be able to just take your temperature and go. So yeah, that's something. But also it's just amazing how you can just pair this with your phone and it has all the information laid out in front of you. So I'll show you the DAYSY View app. So this is what the DAYSY View app looks like when you click on it. So this is what last month looked like for me. As you can see, all the green days, and then you have the red days. Like I said, it gives you a buffering window, and sperm can live for up to 6 or 7 days. So it gave me a good window right before ovulation, and this little dot means that's when I was most fertile, and then it gives me a window afterwards. And I had some yellow days. I think my temperature was fluctuating kind of unusually, so that's basically what it looks like. And then this is it logs my periods in here so that it knows exactly what my cycle is doing. And then over here you can see all the fluctuation. So this is what charting would look like if you actually did it on your own. So this is really neat to just kind of see what my temperatures are doing. So there are a bunch of reasons why I trust the DAYSY to keep track of my cycles and also to use as my only form of birth control. Like I said, I've been using this for a year now, and I've really trusted. Like I said, there has been lots of research behind this, and the statistics that the DAYSY will give you is it is 99.4% effective, which is amazing for natural family planning. It's 100% natural, and it's just so easy to keep track of everything. As long as you can get up in the morning and take your temperature, it's all pretty much simple. It's very simple to just keep track of. So that is why I choose this form of birth control, but you have lots of different options in this video, so really it just comes down to finding the best option for yourself and whatever works for you specifically. So if you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. I'll also link the DAYSY below and a few different other things. So thank you so much for watching, and yeah, let me know if you have any questions.